What are your views on plugin subscriptions? Now, I love them and I hate them. I hate the fact that things are recurring for what you could pay a full price for and then just get it. On the other hand, at some points, they're beneficial because they spread cost. And you, from a business perspective, you don't necessarily see them coming out as such. But you can be signed up to a lot of these plugin subscriptions and it starts to get very expensive. I mean, you could be looking at like £200-300 a month just in subscriptions, and we don't need that. But I get having it, right? And I like it for certain things. Now, there's certain things that are constantly updating, DAWs in particular. I mean, I must pay, because I've got 2 Pro Tools Ultimate licenses and 1 standard studio license. Altogether, I think that comes in at about £200 a month just for Pro Tools, which people will say that's ridiculous. And yes, it is ridiculous, to be honest. But that's what we have to pay because we want to use Pro Tools. And before we get into a debate of which DAW's better, for me, Pro Tools is better because it's a DAW that I know the best. I like to stay with Pro Tools for quite a few reasons, and I've talked about that in other videos. But things like Pro Tools, I'm not against the subscription model with things like Pro Tools because you have a constantly updating thing, albeit they're not great updates, but there are some updates. And you need to keep up to date with things like your DAW. People on Fruity Loops, for instance, they buy it once and they get constant updates, which, you know, fair play to the guys at Image Line, is it? Who do Fruity Loops. Fair play to them because they have basically created a DAW for people who just want to buy it and have forever updates, and that is a commendable thing. Pro Tools would never do that. It's just not part of their business. It just never would happen. So, for instance, Pro Tools Ultimate, £80 a month, something like that, and yeah, it's costly, and it does cost a few quid, £200 a month in total, I think, for the free studios. So that's not too bad because the updates are coming every, let's say, 3 months, and they are substantial updates, and I need it updated because I need to be using, you know, it's my workhorse. It needs to be up to date. It needs to be solid. All bug fixes done, albeit there's bug fixes in every version, so all bug fixes don't get done. But I get that. So plugin subscriptions are, now the ones I've got, I have the McDSP Everything bundle subscription. I have the Plugin Alliance subscription. I have the Wave subscription. I think that is it. And I've got an Adobe subscription, which I'm quite cool with, albeit that's not plugin. But some subscriptions are better than others. Now, Plugin Alliance one is incredible for one reason, and that's because I got in early. I get, on my subscription, I get every year, I get 10 plugins with my subscription, and I think I only pay about £160 a year, and then I get 10 plugins as well. So really, if they stop producing plugins, which they kind of are now, I mean, there's not many coming out that I'm kind of like, ooh, I've got every plugin. Now, the one time that subscriptions are beneficial is when the plugins get updated a lot and they require updates. Now, a prime example of this is the Wave subscription. Now, I have to have the Wave subscription because I get lots of clients who use Waves, and when I get sent sessions, I need to open the sessions and have all the plugins that everyone's using. More often than not, Waves are one that's continuously used by lots and lots of people, majority of the time in hip-hop scene, always used in hip hop. Not so much others, but the Waves plugins are a subscription that I have to have, and I've got the subscription for that. And if you didn't have the subscription, right, so here's the thing, is if you bought the perpetual licenses for Waves, which many of us had, I only had about 3 or 4 before the subscription, maybe a few more. But the reason I didn't buy them was because of this update plan that they do. And when we all eventually switch, like I did, from an Intel computer to a Mac one, you have this massive outlay for your Waves plugins because you need to update them. And they do this kind of update plan it's not for me. I don't like when companies do that. So the subscription's massively beneficial for me for that, and I feel for people who spent thousands of pounds on Waves plugins and then have an update plan that costs them a lot of money. And I do honestly feel for people when that happens. That's one time that the subscription's massively beneficial if you haven't spent a massive amount of money on the plugins. It's a bit of a kick in the teeth, because you can't look, if you spent 2, 3, 4 grand on plugins and then it's like, oh well, I want to get the subscription. If I get the subscription, it nulls all my other plugins. I bought all them and now I've got a subscription where I've got everyone. It's like, maybe take into account that I've bought all these plugins, give me a very, very nice discount on the subscription. That would have been a very fair thing to do. The Plugin Alliance subscription, now they did do that. They did look at what you already had and gave you a discounted price based on what you already had. And I had a lot already, so I got a really good deal with my Plugin Alliance subscription. Now, the thing with subscriptions, and the thing that really is hard to take, is if everything goes subscription based, which it very much could do, if you have the only option you have is subscriptions for everything, you will end up with a bill every month for a massive amount. It's going to cost you a fortune, and I totally get this. From a business perspective, it's a lot easier to lose all that money, where it's just like, it's just part and parcel of having an audio business. But from a producer's perspective, it's difficult to stomach. And some companies, Waves in particular, basically came out and said, this was a while ago, they said, we're going to subscription, we're no longer doing perpetual license. And there was uproar. There really was uproar. And they had to backtrack, because that's not fair. Not everybody wants a subscription. Look, Waves will want to do that because it's highly beneficial to them. It locks everybody in. And the problem you've got with subscriptions is, let's say I once got the SSL subscription and I was using it as a subscription. I had most of the plugins already on perpetual licenses, but I got the subscription. It's $14.99 or $9.99, something like that, a month. And I used the plugins a lot. The problem was then I went, you know what? I'm not using these plugins a lot anymore. I'm going to ditch the subscription. The problem now was I needed to open old sessions. So I would have to open old sessions and be like, now I need those plugins. So then I had to go and buy them. Thankfully, I bought a lot of them in a sale. But where I'd been using them, this is the problem, is if you ditch the subscription and you've got a load of plugins that you're using, you no longer have a license to use them, and then you're basically stuffed. You have to go and you have to stay on the subscription, or you have to go and get the license if you want to open those old sessions exactly as they was with those plugins that you were licensed to use. Now, when you look at a subscription, one thing you want to look at is what you're actually getting for it for the money. And most of the subscriptions are, let's say, $14.99, around that sort of price bracket, maybe a little bit more. So let's say $29 to $14.99, something around that. So the problem you've got, and what you want to do is when you look at these subscriptions is weigh up what you're getting with it. Like the Waves collection comes with like 120, maybe more plugins, and yeah, there's maybe a handful that you'll use all the time. I mean, I could count on my hand the amount of Waves plugins that I actually go, yeah, that's a really good plugin that I haven't got anywhere else, and I'll be using that. Plugin Alliance plugin, same again. I've got a handful of plugins, and they're the ones that I'll use out of all of their list of, I think there's 130 maybe plugins. So weigh up what you've already got, what you actually are going to need, and then kind of work out, well, you know, is it beneficial for me? How long am I going to be on this subscription? Let's say I'm on this subscription for 10 years at $14.99 a time. I mean, about 1,800 quid maybe, something like that. Is that right? Something like that. 1,800, nearly £2,000. Let's say £2,000 just for argument's sake. So you're paying £2,000, and if you're only using a handful of plugins, let's say you're using 5 plugins, you're paying, what's that, £400 a plugin, which, all right, over the course of 10 years, it's, you know, it's quite good that you're getting that lease of 10 years. But then let's say you go another 10 years, you've then paid £800 for these plugins, and yeah, it's good to own a plugin. And look, here's the thing with perpetual licenses: it's a very competitive market. Right? This plugin industry is a very competitive market, and there are sales with every company non-stop all the time. So you can get a perpetual license for relatively cheap, and the kind of price that's been set across the board is what Plugin Alliance did, $29.99. That's the price in sales, and that's like this kind of golden number that everybody goes for now. Waves $29.99, one-off sale, never to be repeated, and then it's repeated a couple of months later. Waves always have a sale. Never buy a plugin full price. Waves always have a sale. That's just how it is. Plugin Alliance will always select few plugins that they'll have on a sale, but there always is something on sale. And then what you've got to look at when you're looking at subscription is, well, what are you bringing out? Like, I get all these plugins, yep, wicked. I've got all these like 100 plus plugins with my subscription. Now, what's coming? Now, one company that, well, not so much now. Since Dirk left Plugin Alliance, it's kind of slowed down a bit, in my opinion. And now you're kind of, there's not a lot of buzz around Plugin Alliance anymore. There was a massive buzz. Everybody would have every single plugin that was on sale. It was like rush to buy this plugin on sale. It was brilliant. Nowadays, though, I don't see much coming out of Plugin Alliance because it's now over to Native Instruments. So, you know, if you're going to go with Plugin Alliance, you get Plugin Alliance, you get all these plugins, brilliant. You've got some, like literally, if you're going to get a subscription, Plugin Alliance is the subscription to get because it's got really good tools and it covers a wide range. It covers everything. The only thing that they're not really covering very well is reverbs on Plugin Alliance. Also, as well, is you've got the UAD subscription. That's one I forgot about. But like the UAD subscription, the problem you got with that is, and this can be seen as a good thing and a bad thing. It's they haven't gone right. Okay, we're going to release this subscription. Here's the subscription. What they've done is they've kind of gone, right, we're going to release a subscription and there's only 20 plugins or 15 plugins, however many are on there at the moment. And it's like, oh, this ain't really worth getting the subscription right now. If it was all of the plugins, then it's worth getting the subscription because you're getting all these plugins, loads of plugins to use natively as well. The problem, the good thing there is if you're on the UAD subscription, is you're going to be drip fed plugins, one after the other, for the next X amount of years. And they know this. That's why they've done that. And they want to kind of get people on and then just be able to give them something more each month. And it's like, yeah, I got a new plugin. Like, yeah, I paid £15, whatever it was, £20. And now I've got a new plugin, and then I pay another 20 next month, and now there's a new plugin. It's like, oh, I'm paying £20 a plugin, really? And I get why they've done that, and I understand why they've done that. But myself, I've got all of the, I've got all but about 10 UAD plugins. And for me, the subscription isn't worth it. Because I've got them all. I've got all of the what's out on UAD as subscription. What's on the subscription, and I've got all the versions that are out currently that aren't on the subscription. So for me, it's not a good deal. But for someone going into, they haven't got any UAD plugins, it's not a bad deal. You are going to get drip fed, plugin after plugin, for the next 5 years, which is kind of better. Well, it's not. You'd want them all now for the same price, but as someone just entry level going in and starting with UAD from the get go, you're just going to get a couple of plugins every couple of months, which is great. So yeah, plugin subscriptions can be good and they can be bad, and you've got to weigh it up as what is actually kind of beneficial.